The night had fallen over Thebes, and the city, bathed in moonlight, exuded an air of mystery and enchantment. In the heart of the temple dedicated to Dionysus, shadows danced softly, as if the god himself were about to manifest. Disguised as a mortal, Zeus watched the scene before him, his gaze fixed on a young priestess, Semele, whose beauty was dazzling under the stars. Her dark hair cascaded in gentle waves over her shoulders, and her eyes sparkled like two stars of the night. Semele was absorbed in her prayers, her delicate hands raised as if trying to reach the gods. Zeus felt his heart race. The attraction he felt for her was overwhelming. He approached, and as soon as she sensed his presence, she interrupted her prayers, gazing at him with a look of curiosity and caution. "Who are you, stranger?" Semele asked, her voice soft but tinged with suspicion. "A lost traveler, in search of peace and inspiration," Zeus replied, his voice deep and captivating. "And it seems I have found what I was looking for in you." The air between them felt electrified, and Semele, though intrigued, hesitated. It is not wise to be swayed by sweet words. The gods often play with mortals. Zeus smiled, a smile that carried the promise of eternal love. Not all gods are cruel. Some, like me, seek only a heart that understands the beauty of the world. Semele, still hesitant, looked around as if expecting the temple walls to warn her about the danger of surrendering to a forbidden passion. However, the longing for love and connection spoke louder. "And what if you are not who you say you are? Then allow me to show you my true self," Zeus replied, the intensity of his gaze making Semele's heart race. "But do not worry, my intention is only to make you happy." The night wore on, and when their eyes met again, the distance between them diminished. Semele felt drawn to him in a way she had never experienced before. The moon illuminated their faces, and the stars seemed to witness that unusual encounter, as if foretelling a grand and tragic destiny. After long moments of hesitation, the priestess finally surrendered to the desire that consumed her. "Perhaps I should trust you." The words slipped from her lips like a whisper, and in doing so, she took a step toward the unknown. Zeus smiled, knowing that the course of their lives was about to change forever. The gentle night breeze wrapped around the temple of Dionysus, while the moonlight filtered through the marble columns, creating dancing shadows on the ground. Semele, with her heart racing and her mind filled with doubts, looked at Zeus, who now stood before her in all his magnificence. The celestial light surrounding him was almost unbearable, and she felt doubt transform into desire and terror. "You cannot let me see this, Zeus." Her voice trembled, almost inaudible. "I am not worthy of such a vision." Zeus hesitated, the weight of the decision crushing him. "Semele, my beloved, you do not understand what you are asking. What you desire could be deadly for you." But the young woman, overcome by insatiable curiosity and the depth of her love, insisted, "I need to know who you truly are. You drew me into this love, and now I want to know its essence." With a deep sigh, Zeus finally yielded. "If that is what you wish, then so be it." He revealed himself in his divine form, an explosion of light and power that illuminated the temple. The beauty of his divinity was so intense that it made Semele's heart race. But at the same time, her body began to burn under the radiant light. "Zeus!" she cried, but her words were lost in the wave of fire that consumed her. The brightness was both magnificent and devastating. She was being devoured by the very light that fascinated her. In an instant, the priestess found herself surrounded by flames, her human form turning to ash. Desperate, Zeus reached out his hands towards Semele, but it was too late. In an act of despair, he did what only a god could do. He took Dionysus, still defenseless, from his mother's womb, stitching him into his own thigh. "My son," he murmured, the pain of losing Semele overflowing in his words. "I will do everything to ensure your survival." As Semele dissipated into ashes, the isolated island where Dionysus would be born awaited. Zeus, with a heavy heart and without the presence of his beloved, entrusted the care of the newborn to Ino, a gentle nymph. "Protect him," Zeus instructed, his voice filled with sadness. "He is the light that still remains amidst my darkness." Ino, upon receiving Dionysus, felt the fragility of the life that surrounded her. "I will care for him as if he were my own," she promised as she wrapped the baby in her arms. "He will be loved and protected." And so, amidst pain and tragedy, the life of Dionysus began. Far from the lights of Olympus and the shadows of fate, a new god being born in secret, merely awaiting the moment of his revelation. Dionysus grew under the care of the nymph Ino, on a hidden island away from the curious gaze of gods and mortals. The young man flourished, his vibrant and curious essence manifesting in every aspect of his life. He was a prodigy, showcasing remarkable skill in viticulture. The vines at the touch of his hands seemed to sprout with more life, while the fruits ripened in colors and flavors unmatched. Moreover, music and dance were his constant companions, and the melodies that emerged from his lyre enchanted even the flowers that danced in the wind. One afternoon, while Dionysus was harvesting grapes under the setting sun, Ino approached, her gaze carrying a mix of love and concern. "My dear Dionysus," she began, her voice soft like the breeze, "you should know that your origin is more magnificent than any wine you may create." He paused, his eyes shining with curiosity. "What do you mean by that, Ino?" "I am just a mortal, a simple cultivator." Ino sighed, sitting in the shade of a leafy tree. "You are not just a mortal. Your mother, Semele, was a priestess of great beauty and courage. And your father? Well, your father is Zeus, the king of the gods." The revelation echoed in Dionysus's mind like thunder. "Zeus? And my mother? Is she alive?" Hope mingled with pain in his heart. "Unfortunately, no." Semele was consumed by curiosity, wishing to see Zeus in his true form. "The sight of the divine is deadly for mortals," Ino explained, sadness evident in her gaze. "But you, my dear, carry her legacy and his. It is time to discover who you truly are." Determination grew within Dionysus, like a storm about to break. "I cannot allow my mother's story to end in tragedy. I will take vengeance on those who caused her death." Ino looked at him with apprehension. "Be careful, Dionysus. The quest for vengeance can consume even the gods. You must find a path that honors your mother." But Ino's words only fueled the fire in his heart. He could not ignore the pain that Semele's curiosity had brought. With a new purpose, Dionysus decided he was ready to present himself to the world, no longer as a mortal, but as a god. He prepared to spread the message of wine and ecstasy, captivating hearts and minds while seeking justice for his mother. The journey was just beginning, and his presence promised to change everything around him. As the full moon illuminated the sky, Dionysus danced in the heart of the forest, surrounded by his followers. The aroma of fresh wine and the vibrant sound of flutes filled the air, creating an atmosphere of joy and liberation. He knew he was loved, but the shadow of Hera loomed over him, a threatening presence that pursued him relentlessly. The goddess's wrath was not a feeling he could ignore indefinitely. "We must prepare," said one of his closest followers, a young man named Lycurgus, who was more aware of the movements around them. "Hera will not rest until you are captured. She has sent mythological creatures to hunt us down." Dionysus smiled, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "If Hera wants a hunt, let her have one. I am the god of wine and festivity. What would life be without a little fun?" He raised a cup, and the crowd joined him in a toast, laughter echoing through the forest. However, the celebration was interrupted when a group of creatures, with sharp claws and shining eyes, emerged from the shadows. Dionysus turned to Lycurgus, his expression serious. "Prepare the others. Tonight, we will not fight with weapons, but with joy. Let us show them what it means to be truly free." With a wave of his hand, he made the vines around him intertwine, creating a vibrant scene of grapes and flowers. The music intensified, and the mortals began to dance frantically, while Dionysus led the celebration, his body moving as if in perfect harmony with the universe. "Come, creatures of the night," he shouted. "Join us. If you wish to capture me, you must first get lost in the joy of wine." And so, the creatures hesitated, drawn in by the music and the laughter that filled the air. During the festival, Dionysus climbed onto a raised stone, his eyes shining with fervor. "My dear followers, come. Today, we not only celebrate life, but we also call for justice. The pain of my mother, Semele, will not be forgotten." He raised his cup once more, and the crowd followed suit, their voices joining in a powerful chant. For Semele, the creatures, confused and hypnotized by the music and the power of Dionysus, began to slowly retreat as the magical energy of the festival enveloped the forest. He knew he was only postponing the confrontation with Hera, but for now, the joy and unity of his followers were stronger than any threat that might approach. "So be it. Those who follow me shall be protected," Dionysus proclaimed, his voice resonating in the night. "With wine in our veins and dance in our hearts, we shall be invincible." And as the stars shone above, the young god made it clear that, even in the face of adversity, the celebration of life and the memory of his mother would not cease. In the vast hall of Olympus, Hera rose in all her majesty, her eyes sparkling with contained fury. The other gods, gathered around her, watched with a mixture of respect and fear. "It is time to put an end to the threat that Dionysus represents," Hera proclaimed, her voice echoing through the marble columns. "He must be banished from our realm. We cannot allow his presence to overshadow the order we have established." Zeus, seated on his throne, felt the weight of the decision. He looked at his wife, his mind torn between the love for his own creation and the need to maintain harmony among the gods. "Hera, do you not see? Dionysus is a god on the rise. His cult brings joy and liberation to mortals. To banish him would condemn his mother to the eternal darkness of oblivion." "And what do you suggest, Zeus?" interrupted Athena, her gaze incisive. "Should we allow him to challenge the order we have established? He is not just a god. He is a symbol of rebellion." Meanwhile, deep within Olympus, Dionysus listened to the conversation through ethereal whispers. Indignation grew within him. He would no longer be a mere spectator in the story of his own life. With determination, he stepped forward, his imposing figure reflecting the golden light of the gods. "Enough of conspiracies in the shadows," he exclaimed, his voice resonating with power. "I am Dionysus, son of Zeus and Semele. My mother will not be forgotten as long as I exist." The gods exchanged glances, surprised by the audacity of the young god. "Do you dare to challenge those who govern Olympus?" Ares questioned, a disdainful smile on his face. "Yes," Dionysus replied, his gaze burning with passion. "I will not allow the pain of my past to be in vain. My mother deserves to be remembered, and I will fight to ensure that happens. If Hera desires my banishment, she must face the power I bring." The tension in the air escalated, and Dionysus's fervent and devoted followers began to gather around him, ready to support their god in any battle. Hera, furious, looked at the mortals who dared to oppose her. "If it is war you desire, Dionysus, then so be it." She raised her scepter, summoning her divine allies. The battle was about to erupt, and Olympus would become the stage for an epic confrontation. Dionysus, firm in his determination, took a deep breath, feeling the vibrant energy of his followers and the strength of his heritage. He would not fight just for himself, but for Semele, for every mortal who found freedom in his wine and dance. The struggle for recognition and truth was just beginning. Dionysus, now a god in all his fullness, advanced towards Hera with a determination that emanated not only from his anger, but from a deep sadness. He felt the weight of the pain not only for the death of his mother, Semele, but also for the manipulation that had shaped his destiny. "Hera, I do not come here seeking revenge, but rather the acknowledgement of the love that shaped my existence." Semele was not just a mortal. She was a goddess in her essence, and her love gave me life. "Hera, initially rigid and inflexible, looked at the young god with a new perspective. In his eyes, Dionysus carried a spark that reminded her of the fragility of love and the pain that accompanied loss. "You are stubborn, Dionysus. What makes you believe that I, of the high lineage of Olympus, would care about the story of a mortal? Because despite everything, you are also a mother," he replied, his melodic voice echoing in the tense air. "And you know deep down that Semele did not deserve such a cruel fate." The silence that followed was profound, as if Olympus itself was holding its breath. Finally, in a twist that no one could have predicted, Hera let out a heavy sigh. The death of Semele was a trap. Hades, fearing the power of a god born of love, orchestrated her downfall. He wanted to ensure that you would never become a threat to his domain. Hera's words reverberated in Dionysus's mind, and the anger that had once burned in his heart began to transform into a new determination. If Hades is responsible, then he will be the target of my justice, not out of vengeance, but for the truth that must be revealed. Together, Dionysus and Hera joined forces with Zeus, forming a powerful trinity that would challenge Hades and his schemes. "Let us free Semele," exclaimed Dionysus, his heart determined to honor his mother's memory. With an affirmative nod, Zeus raised his hand, summoning the storm that was forming on the horizon. The battle that ensued was epic, the forces of Olympus against the shadows of the underworld. With each beam of light cast by Zeus and each drop of magical wine conjured by Dionysus, Hades' domain began to crumble. "You cannot hide the truth forever, Hades," Dionysus shouted, his voice echoing in the dark caves. "The light of love will always prevail." When the dust of the battle finally settled, victory belonged to the gods. Hades, defeated and weakened, was imprisoned in his own realm, while the truth about Semele's death spread like a ray of light throughout Olympus. Dionysus, now recognized as a worthy deity, not only celebrated his ascension, but also the memory of his mother, whose essence would continue to live on through him. "May the celebration of life and love be eternally remembered," said Dionysus, raising his cup in tribute to Semele. And so, the god of wine and ecstasy established himself as a symbol of overcoming, bringing joy and festivity to the world, while the pain and betrayal of his past became distant memories, finally set free.